in the capital, St. Michael Church, at the heart of the city, and spoke with some residents that say this holiday season is nothing like anything they've observed before. Let's take a look.
This is St. Michael's Church in Maqala. It used to be the most favorite Orthodox church for residents of Maqala wanting to observe the Good Friday, but today we find it abandoned.
In the previous year, of course, at that time there was under heavy depression because of the invasion of the Ethiopian and the Eritrean troops. So relatively the celebration of the Good Friday is more free than the last year. But when we compare in the other circumstances, since due to the siege in our region, the people is under different problems, hunger. So many people are stay at home because of they became weak and weak. So it has great differences with the other years.
Due to the war and due to the political issue and due to some other cases, such like that of starvation by itself, is a reason for declination of the holiday.
This is Abbata Walda Burhan Walda Samuel, a coordinator at St. Michael's Church. He says the ongoing siege has ravaged the city's residents, leading many to starve.
With the ongoing siege, the crisis in the country and starvation, people are here on the ground, begging and praying to our God. Children, adults and mothers with their children are on the ground praying.
Murut Lahun is a lecturer at Maqala University. He says the ongoing siege has led many to despair. Here in Tigray, he says, hope is in short supply.
There is clear difference. In the previous times or before the invasion of the Tigray region by the Ethiopian government and other allies, there was, for example, there was many people in here. You couldn't even find a footstep, but you can see your surrounding now, how it's sparse, and the people nowadays is not having a hope or good hope of peace.
Churchgoers say the church used to prepare food for people that had been fasting the entire day, but this year the blockade has made it impossible for the church or its supporters to provide any food.
Preparations are very different this year. We've had to cut back a lot. And Sunday school used to prepare food for churchgoers that had fasted the whole day, but we have nothing to give this year.
Many here may not be breaking their fast this evening. The blockade on essential goods, including food aid and the discontinuation of banking services, has meant that Easter may not be so different from any other day.
People are fasting the whole day, but there is no food at home.
The world had once before come together to support Tigray in its time of need, but today Tigrayans wonder if the world still cares to be a voice to the voiceless.
Last week, Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital, the largest hospital in the region, announced that it would no longer be able to provide meals for its more than 800 patients. Today, on the eve of Easter holiday, usually one of the most colorfully celebrated in Tigray, our reporter Salome Tigrai visited the hospital to see how the patients and health workers are coping with the siege and its disastrous impacts. Let's have a look.
Earlier this week, Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital, the largest referral hospital in Tigray, had announced that it had been forced to discontinue meal services due to the ongoing siege that has blocked food aid, commercial goods, and discontinued banking services. So we are here at the hospital today on the eve of Easter holiday to see how patients and health workers have been coping. Let's go inside. This is Zainabu Gurmai. She was admitted into Eider Hospital some 3 weeks ago. She is 8 months pregnant and suffering from diabetes. Her husband is epileptic, and banks have been closed for close to 10 months now, meaning her son is the only one that can support the family. She is staying at the hospital despite the fact that there is no food or medication.
Here I am at the hospital on a holiday. Forget food or money. I don't even have medication. I can't imagine preparing food for the holiday. We don't have money for medication or food. My son is out begging or trying to find someone that will lend him some money. Anything he finds, it will take him long to bring us here. There's no transportation. I have seizure while I wait for him, and sometimes he comes back with nothing. Some patients will give it to me if they have anything left over.
Diabetics are given drugs to lower their blood glucose level, but the effects of patients like Zainabu, who have nothing to eat, will be much different, taking it well below the normal levels, and they become hypoglycemic. An Obesian resident at the hospital, Dr. Atzbaha, says that many diabetic mothers in the hospital are suffering from hypoglycemia as they have nothing to eat.
We have practical mothers who are diabetic, okay, who have TM for so many years, and they are on insulin. So that insulin, initially we are facing getting insulin. Still the challenge is there, but with all challenges, those mothers who get that insulin, it also make them suffer, because when they took insulin, their glucose level drops down, and they feel they will be complicated with hypoglycemia. So this hypoglycemia, they are pregnant mothers, okay, and the baby and the mothers are suffering from this hypoglycemia, and you can imagine the impacts of hypoglycemia in a pregnant mother. So both lives are at risk. So we have difficulties, and our mothers are even suggesting not to take this medication for the fear of we may not get food to encounter this hypoglycemic impact of the insulin.
Abarra Berha is from the district of Tsalamti in western Tigray. He brought his son Burhanu Abarra, who suffers from cancer, to Eider Referral Hospital in the hopes of finding treatment. Not only is he unable to get treatment for his illness, but Burhanu is now also malnourished with almost no muscle left in his body. Despite not receiving care, Burhanu remains at the hospital because his father doesn't have the money to take him home. Abarra says every day he prays he will get another day with his son.
He was better when he arrived at the hospital. He could move around. Now he is suffering from malnutrition, and he can't move his body. I carry him whenever he needs to use the bathroom. Everything is so difficult. There's no medication for cancer here, and it's really expensive in private pharmacies. I finished all the money I had. There's a shortage of money and shortage of food. It's really difficult. I had 6,000 birr, and I'm left with 100 birr only. What can I do with 100 birr? Nobody's giving us attention. Children like him need attention. We hear that there is medication coming into the region, but nothing has reached us. The hospital has stopped providing food as well.
Sister Mulu Burhan Gavra Mikhail is a nurse at Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital. She says that before the war, the hospital used to be lively during Easter holiday. The hospital used to be able to have special meals for the holiday, but it's not even able to afford a piece of bread now.
قدم خازي أو بعدات خمس تلو يحرد لهم نيرو مجيبه هوسبيتال يرخو نيرو خازجن الحرد نعم تليخونس بانو كاباني التسانو لجيزي منهم عينتنا مجيبي قرب إلي.
We used to have special meals for our patients for holidays. Now we're not even able to give them bread. There's no food supply at all. There's nothing this holiday. It's really difficult for patients. There's no medication, no food, and there's a shortage of oxygen. Ever since the hospital stopped providing food, patients have been leaving the hospital. You can look for yourself. There are many empty beds. Why would they stay here when we don't have medication or food to offer them?
These patients are just some among the many in Tigray who have to spend the holiday like they have been spending their days for the past 10 months with no food or medication.
Easter is one of the most festive in Tigray. After more than 2 days of fasting, Orthodox Christians break their fast on Easter holiday. Special meals are prepared and families are sure to make new and happy memories. But today, Tigray finds itself under an almost 10 months long siege that has blocked all essential goods, and many are not able to afford even the most basic items. And the situation is even more dire in IDP camps, where many have displaced from their homes and have no information on the whereabouts of family members, and say this holiday is just a reminder of what it used to be. Sharon Zagay has more.
For many displaced by the ethnic cleansing campaign in Western Tigray, this Easter holiday is nothing but a reminder of what has been lost. This is Sawakari IDP Center in Maqala, and these are the children, the elderly, and mothers, its shelters. They're waiting here in the hopes that they may get some aid this holiday. But even then, many will find it difficult to be festive. They have all lost family members. Some were killed in front of their eyes, and some they hope are in jail, suffering perhaps, but at least not dead. Mulo Adana's son was a doctor. She says one day, the Fano came to their neighborhood, tied his hands behind his back using his own belt, and threw him into the back of a car. She says she hasn't seen him since.
My son Gabriel Johannes was a doctor. One day the Fano found him and started to beat him, and then asked for his identity. He told them he was Tigrayan. Then they beat him some more, tied his hands back using his own belt, threw him into the back of a car, and took him. I haven't seen him since that day.
Mulu says she used to celebrate Easter with her late husband, her son, and her 2 grandsons, none of whom are now besides her.
Back home, we used to celebrate Easter with my late husband, my son, and his 2 children. Our home was full and warm during the holidays. We only took the clothes on our backs when we left, so we have nothing now. Even this scarf, someone here gave it to me. We don't have food, just these tents.
Zimam Allena used to be a resident of Humara in Western Tigray. She says her husband and her firstborn son were detained by Fano and she was told to leave.
I used to celebrate Easter holidays at home with my husband, my son, and my whole family. But now, both my firstborn son and husband are detained back home. I'm here with no food to give to my children. I don't even have a gram of flour.
Kasa is an IDP from Adabay in Western Tigray, just 10 kilometers from Humara. She says 9 of her children and grandchildren were detained in concentration camp. She refused for months to leave them behind, despite continuous threats by Ethiopian forces. She says she finally left when the beating became too much.
First, they took our sons, and then they started beating us and telling us to leave. I told them I wouldn't leave without my children, but then the beatings just become so unbearable, so I had to leave. I didn't even have shoes while I was running away. I found these slippers on the road. They're not even the same pair.
Kasa doesn't like to think about how her and her family used to celebrate Easter. It only makes her current state more unbearable.
We owned sheep ourselves, so we would have meat for the holiday, and we used to make beer. Now we're living in dirt and waiting on our daily meals.
The women say all they can do this Easter holiday is hope to find food and pray that their loved ones are safe and that they will see them again someday.
We don't know what to do. Where can we go to complain? We are in distress. We don't even have a single piece of bread to break our fast. We need help.
Our only wish is to get aid to fend off death. We are praying to God to reunite us with our family members. Hope that they're still alive and well. Happy holidays.
More than 1 million people have been displaced from Western Tigray, forced to depend on food aid as they long deeply for the home and family they've lost.
Tigrayans have been blocked from accessing critical services such as banking for more than 10 months now. But our reporter Haligar visited a bank in Maqala and observed many residents on its gates hoping to get access to their savings so their families don't go hungry this Easter holiday. Let's take a look.
The Ethiopian government has blocked banks in Tigray from accessing their customer information. This has brought Tigray's economy to a complete standstill and millions are unable to access their savings at a time when they need it the most. This is Ethiopia's commercial bank in Maqala. The state-owned bank has 2 million customers in Tigray, all of whom are going desperate this Easter holiday because the bank can't give them their own money. It's been closed for 10 months now, but we find many of its customers on its doorsteps hoping the bank's employees can help them somehow.
I have diabetes. I came here to ask for my money, but we're not able to access our own savings because they have deliberately cut us off. And if you don't have money, you can't buy medication. We're being denied our own money. This is betrayal.
I have twins at home, crying for food. I also have a sick, blind, elderly husband. Tomorrow's a holiday, but we have nothing to eat. I have never experienced such depression in my life.
I came here hoping to get my pension. I've been here since morning. Although the bank has been closed, we are on the eve of Easter holiday. It's so difficult without money. People are dying because of banks are closed.
The city's residents said they feel abandoned by the world, who has largely ignored the suffering in Tigray, watching idly as thousands die due to lack of aid.
There are many people here with diabetes, blood pressure, and HIV/AIDS. We are suffering from lack of medication and food. We need the world to hear our voice.
The crisis in Tigray, perhaps long forgotten by the world, continues to devastate millions, starving because they have been denied their own savings.
The discontinuation of banking services and blockade on essential goods has taken Tigray to the brink of humanitarian catastrophe. So it's no surprise that for many this Easter holiday is not much different from the past 10 months under siege that has seen them desperately struggling to fulfill basic needs. Our reporter visited Mubrak Haftam's shop in the capital. Mubrak sells traditional clothes in her small shop in the heart of the city. She says there has been no business since the war started, and not only she had to let go of her employees, who says are now in crisis, but she too is finding it hard to get by. Let's take a look at the Aragawi Gabriel report.
Easter celebrations in Tigray were one of the most festive. Markets used to be ablaze with people wanting to buy presents for family and friends. The preparations were extensive and done with the hope of creating new and happy memories with loved ones. This is Mubrak Haftam. She owns a traditional clothes shop in Mekelle. She says Eastern holiday is nothing like those that came before it.
I've no words to express the impacts of the siege. People have nothing to eat these days. How could we possibly expect them to care about what they wear? This is a difficult time. Everything about my job just makes me hate myself. We're not opening the shop so we can sell clothes. We come here because staying home is just too stressful. No one cares about the things we sell here anymore.
Mebrak says before the siege, not only she have a lot of customers, but she had also employed many tailors and decorators that are now out of work.
Around this time of the year, it would have been impossible to find a place to stand in this shop. We had so many customers, not to mention our many employees. What makes me feel worse is the condition of the tailors and decorators and their families, who are now suffering because they lost their jobs. There were at least 30 people that depended on this little shop.
Mebrak says unlike most Eastern holidays this year, she only prayed for peace.
I don't expect to sell clothes. I just long for peace, so that who have been separated due to the war could find one another again, so life becomes normal for everyone again. The siege has been so harsh, especially for those suffering from illnesses and those who are starving.
For many in Tigray, this Eastern holiday will not be different than the past 10 months of the siege that has been seen Tigrayan severed from the world, unable to access basics such as food aid or medical supplies.
The declaration of humanitarian truce by the Ethiopian government had left many hopeful that there would be some improvements in the humanitarian situation in Tigray. But tomorrow marks one month since that day, and there has been no significant improvements on the ground. One of those hopeful families was that Amina Abrahas. Amina is a resident of Mekelle and a mother of 4 children, who says will have to go without any food this Easter holiday. For more, Sablor Karma reports.
Tigray has been under siege for close to 10 months now, and Tigrayans have been living under communications blackout. Banks have been closed and fuel blocked. Many Tigrayans have run out of coping mechanisms for the ongoing siege, leaving many with little to celebrate this Easter holiday. We visited the home of Amit Abraha in Magala. Amit is a mother of 4. Her family, like millions across the state, will have very little to eat this holiday.
سرح وهناصي يسرح نيرو على الجزاء يسرح نيرو على الصفية يقول يكون بس اسمه.
We used to lead a happy life. My husband used to do labor work at construction sites, and I used to make bread baskets and sell them at local markets. That was our source of income. That's how we sent our children to school.
She says business was blooming before the start of the war. She also said that she's run out of essential inputs to make her baskets. But even if she were to find them, her baskets may seem exuberant in a city where many can no longer afford bread.
I used to make bread baskets such as these, but these days I can't find the things I need to make them. For example, that used to cost 600 birr, and that one over there, it used to cost 300 birr. No one can afford them now, and I didn't finish that one because I ran out of material.
Amit says she has only fond memories of previous Easter holidays. Unlike the holidays of this year, her and her family were able to observe old tradition and make happy memories with her family.
Holidays
used to be warm here. We used to buy sheep like everyone else. The situation now is completely different. There is no food in the house.
She says her 14-year-old son, Milyon Gabragzawir, started working with taxi drivers in the city to help support his family. But things have been getting more difficult these days.
I was in 5th grade when schools closed, so I started working with taxi drivers. I used to earn a little to help my parents, but now, since there is no fuel, I had to stop working. It's very difficult now. I was out looking for work this morning, but I wasn't able to find anything.
I have 4 children, aged 14, 9, 5 years, and this one is a year and 8 months. I have nothing to feed them. We're only still alive because neighbors used to help us, but we've completely run out of food now.
Dagaf is one of such neighbors trying to help Amit and her children. She says she has been able to find her a place to stay, but Amit and her children will need much more just to get by.
مسوع الجزاءنا مسكور بيتا أيام تياسني يا وجزء خراي مخفلي سي الناس زبع الجزاء.
I didn't know Amit before. A neighbor brought her to me and told me she needed somewhere to stay. I was able to connect her with the owner of this house and asked if she and her children could stay here. He is letting her stay here, but the house is not finished and she needs more help.
Amit says she's disappointed that the humanitarian truce has failed to bear fruit for the family and millions more in dire need of humanitarian truce.
Roads have to open. People are starving to death. We had some hope when we heard that the roads may soon open, but they didn't. There's been no change.
There are so many children starving, and the world is watching idly by. It is so sad to see children crying. Media are always talking about it, but there is still no solution. I call on the world to help us break the siege.
6.5 million people in Tigray are in dire need of humanitarian assistance this holiday. Many going hungry and dying because their own government has denied them access to food and medical care, as many more across the world are celebrating the gift of compassion.
Hailu Bella is a father of 3. He says Easter holiday used to be festive in his home before the siege. He says his family depended primarily on income from his taxi. But today, a blockade on fuel and other essential services has meant that Hailu and his family, like many others, is facing an uncertain future. For more, Aragawi Kabramkad reports.
Hailu Bala is a father of 3. He supported his family by driving a taxi, but lack of fuel has forced him to stop work for more than 4 months now, leaving his family desperate this Eastern holiday.
I had stopped work for more than 4 months now because there's no fuel, there's no grocery at the house. I started to work a little to help cover some of our expenses and just to get out of the house. It can be very stressful to be there the whole day. But it's really hard today. I'm doing any work now. I'm buying diesel for 350 birr on the black market, and I only barely make any profit to buy grocery. I'm not able to buy wheat or flour with what I'm making.
But Hailu says it's not just the lack of fuel that has made him desperate. Nowadays, parts of vehicle are skyrocketing. He is worried that his vehicle may break down and there will be no way to fix it back again. He says even tires are sold for more than $350.
The price for a tire is from 16 to 17,000 birr. Other spare parts are also expensive. So really, I'm just here to be busy and avoid stress. We sure don't have any profit.
Hailu says he used to be able to buy clothes and shoes for his children during the holiday, but today he's not even able to afford food.
I don't think about new clothes or shoes for my children. My only concern now are their daily meals.
According to Hailu, although there is not much that him and his family are not able to afford this holiday, optimism has been even scarce.
Tragedy has befallen us. We used to have plans for the future. I had planned to buy a second taxi before the war started, but this didn't just